Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Spooky AF. My name is Rob, and today I'll be joined by my co-host Suz. Suz, how are you?
I'm alright, surviving the horrors, but, every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Surviving millennial life existing.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, more than fair.
Oh, I wanted to run by you something that I want our listeners to hear as well. So, we recently went and hung out with, or my husband and I went and hung out with some of our friends, and they had never heard of or seen what year was it? Is it like '06 or something? Yeah, it was like when I was in high school, which is like dating me. But the film Stay Alive. Have you seen this film?
Great film. Absolutely love it.
It's with Frankie Muniz. And they had never heard of it, so like I made everybody watch it. And
more than fair.
It's the first time I've seen it since I was a teenager, and I'm just gonna say it is a piece of cinematic gold.
Yeah, well, that's it. You didn't make them watch it; you made them experience it.
Yeah. So, if a quick synopsis for the audience, if you're interested at all, it is a really low budget horror film about a game that is a southern retelling of the Elizabeth Bathory story. If you don't know her, you should Google her. It's a fascinating real life occurrence. She was a real person. But and if you die in the video game, which is I think played on a PS2, you die that same way in real life by what looks in the film a bit like a holographic semi-see-through version of Elizabeth Bathory. And like I said, it's got Frankie Muniz in it, and he's wearing like an upside-down visor, and it is gold.
Yep, that's pretty much covers it, actually. Like this, this came out at around the same time as the Final Destination and Jeepers Creepers movies.
Yes.
So this is the golden age of cinema, really.
And it's very much trying to take that vibe, and everything's got kind of a blue tint on it, but it just fails spectacularly. And also, it inexplicably, so it takes place in Louisiana, I think New Orleans, but no one has a southern accent. Nobody. So why would they?
That's an irrelevant detail that they don't need to cover.
Basically. So I'd highly suggest you watch it. It's super funny, and so have a good go at that one. That's my movie rec for the week.
Amazing. That's a recommendation I was not expecting at all. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to next week's one.
Yes, exactly.
to find out
what the hell I'm doing.
Where you are in the movie world.
Oh God, it's always somewhere I shouldn't be.
Fair, more than fair. Yeah. I'm still recovering from COVID, but I'm feeling much better. I'm feeling invigorated and ready to go for today's episode.
It's because you were cured by Texas Bigfoot.
I was cured by Texas Bigfoot. That is it. It was the Conehead one in particular. He just channeled my energies in the right way, and I feel so much better now.
Yep, I'm gonna make a Telegram sticker of Conehead Bigfoot, and I'm just gonna send it to you randomly throughout the week.
Phenomenal. That's exactly what I need in my life right now. So thank you for that. This is why this paranormal relationship works.
Yes, this is our friendship.
Yeah. But yes, I am super excited about today because this is a different one for me. I'm actually kind of loving how our two episodes that are coming out now, Suz, you've gone for a cryptid, which is not something that you usually do.
Sure.
And I have gone for a serious topic, which is something I've never done before.
Excellent.
So, we're venturing into each other's territory.
We are.
And yeah, I am looking forward to this. I have actually done research as well.
Shut up.
Shockingly. Yeah, I have actually gone out and done my research somewhat. So I read The Guardian. I read some Wikipedia. I read The Week.
Damn.
Obviously Reddit.
Oh, obviously.
And then one or two other sites that I won't share because it'll give away too much.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
But yeah, I've actually gone out of my way. I've done some research. I've looked into this because I've had COVID, as I said. So I've had literally nothing else to do. And I've had a reason for doing this, which I will get into after the intro.
Okay.
So, Suz, are you ready for this?
I don't know, but go ahead.
I want you to imagine, right? Mm-hmm. You're either waking up or you're falling asleep. It's irrelevant.
Okay. That was a really existential quote.
Yes. So you're either waking up or you're falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
The key thing is you're lying in bed.
Yep.
Suddenly, you're unable to move.
Yep.
And your body has become paralyzed as if an unseen weight is upon you. You're unable to move your arms or legs, your body, and your head. You can breathe and think, but you're unable to speak.
Yep.
Have you experienced sleep paralysis before?
I have not.
Okay. So, I have wanted to cover sleep paralysis for a while. And specifically, the thing that interested me on this is the other term for it, called parasomnia.
Oh, that's a great term.
Yeah. So these episodes of parasomnia lead you to experiencing intense anxiety, which is something that I have had.
Yep.
And the reason why I want to look into this whole world of sleep paralysis is this week with my COVID brain, my sleep hasn't been great. I've been not sleeping particularly well. And when I have been sleeping, it's been particularly restless. And my dreams have been absolutely mental.
Okay.
Like, just some weird shit going on in my head. I don't know what it is. Some neurons are firing weird, whatever it is. But I had a moment where I was like, I am going to do an episode on sleep paralysis, and nothing can stop me.
Yep. No, I appreciate it. It's a weird like phenomena.
It's bizarre. It's so strange. And the thing that's interested me and the paranormal hook to this, and it's something that we will get to later, is shared experiences with sleep paralysis.
Yeah, there's like common themes, right?
Yeah, people reporting the same things, and we will get into them. But there's, for people's knowledge, there's been a new addition to the shared experiences across the realm. So it's not just the traditional ones now, but there's actually been a new character added into it, which is...
Rob, I'm gonna need you to tell me right now, is it Skippity Toilet?
It is not, unfortunately.
Oh, thank God. Okay, so I was like, I don't know if I can do this if it is.
No, definitely not. To start things off, I have never fully experienced sleep paralysis before. I think maybe as a child I might have had something similar to it, but I'm not 100% certain, and I don't want to say that I have to kind of... It discredits people that do have it and do suffer with it. But I feel like as a child, maybe in hindsight, it was something that I maybe did have or something minor, but I'm not sure. The parasomnia side, though, of the episodes of intense anxiety, I have 100% had that, and I do get that relatively frequently. It's not something that's nice, and I wake up with it quite frequently, just not feeling great. It's not nice. However, my younger brother, has had sleep paralysis before, and his episode with it was actually what even made me realize that this is a genuine thing that people are afraid of, because I only ever really knew about it just from reading online and stuff like that, but I was never really fully kind of, I suppose, convinced of how terrifying it can be. And it was only until I experienced my younger brother's episode that I really actually fully saw that this is quite a terrifying experience for people. So for my younger brother, and he won't mind me telling this because I asked him before a few months ago when I was thinking about doing this episode, and he said no problem. So, I'm keeping that as his man's word. It still stands. Even months later, I haven't asked him again. He won't mind. This was only a few years ago. I'd say maybe 10 years ago, we'll say, where we were still living at my parents' house. And one night, I, as all early 20s people, was a bit of a night owl. Like, I'd be up pretty late most nights and, would probably wake up a little bit too early, and was just in that horrible cycle of really not sleeping enough for most of my 20s, as most people do at that point. And there was one night I was lying in bed. I think I was probably like binging some series or something like that. And I heard coming from down the hall this like kind of crying sort of noise. This kind of like the only way I could describe it would be this kind of like moaning, kind of like a sad noise, if that makes sense. And I was just kind of a bit like spooked by it initially, but then I was like, maybe it was just my brain just playing tricks. And then I heard it again, and then I heard the distinct sound of my brother's voice, and I heard him saying no. So I got up out of bed, stood at my door, and I asked him if everything was okay, and I didn't get a response. And then I heard him say again, no. So I ran into his room then, and he actually screamed out my name. So I ran to his room, opened his door, and turned on the light. And I was like, are you okay? What's wrong? Like, is everything okay? And he said, and this is the part that really got me, he goes, he's standing at the end of my bed.
Oh, no.
And then, like, I kind of, like, shook on his foot a little bit, and then woke him up. Clearly, I didn't realize he was asleep, and I woke him up. I was like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, I'm fine. And he was like, and then basically copped that he had like sleep paralysis, but he was kind of in the more kind of like sleep kind of phase of it rather than the kind of like semi-awake, if that makes sense. So he was kind of, it was a little bit less clear for him what was going on. But yeah, he genuinely thought that there was a shadowy person standing at the end of his bed just staring at him. So that was my first kind of interaction with it. And to be perfectly honest with you, I did not sleep that night afterwards. I was just like, no, that's me done now. I don't need to sleep because Shadow Man is absolutely not getting me.
No, absolutely. Well, it just reminds me there's like a classic horror film scene. It's what film is it? The one my mom can't watch, which doesn't really tell you anything because she can't watch jack for shit. Anyway, there's one where like there's a very tall like funeral director man standing over like a little boy's bed, and the what you described just immediately like resonated with me with that scene.
Yeah, it wasn't a nice experience, and it was more just seeing the pure terror in his face and hearing it in his voice. Like, it genuinely shook me. It's not something that you ever hope to hear from a sibling. It was quite the experience. So in looking for this then, I was actually talking to a friend, and he actually sent me his own story as well, his own experience, and he's given me permission to read it out. So Kevin, thank you very much for that. I'm going to read out what you sent to me, and I will not do it justice because Kevin has a phenomenal way of writing, and it's great. I won't do it justice, but I'm going to just briefly read out what he sent to me, and then we can talk more afterwards. So, when I first came back from America, I went to my sister's for Christmas. That night I had quite a few tipples, which turned me into an expert blackjack player. Basically, there was a lad sitting beside me, he was telling me what to do, and I was getting some great cards. Afterwards, that night, I staggered and/or dragged myself to the guest room. I was absolutely exhausted, and I embraced a deep slumber. At some point in the night, my brain began to stir, and I was convinced I could see the room I was in, but I couldn't move. There was a weight on my chest like something was hunched on me. I felt like I was trapped in my own body. I scanned the room with my eyes, unable to move my neck, and out of the corner of my eye, I spotted a vaguely human black shape. I wasn't able to scream. My mouth wouldn't work. I remember breathing faster and faster, hoping someone might hear my troubled breaths and come to my aid. The scene in Kill Bill comes to mind. The one where she's focusing, trying to move her toe. That was me trying to move anything to give me salvation from the shape. At some point, my body kicked into gear. I rolled out of the bed and face planted the floor. My body was shocked awake, and I in fear jumped up to face the shadowy foe in the corner, only for there to be nothing but empty space. I later got an angry message from my sister. Apparently someone pissed in her bath, and I was tried in my absence and found guilty. I had to just put that last bit in there.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, that sounds terrifying.
Yep. So
that's because this is what, like, correct me if I'm wrong, this is what's happening with Nellie in Haunting of Hill House, right?
Yes, it is, yeah.
Okay.
The sleep paralysis, yeah. So this whole thing, the whole kind of phenomenon of sleep paralysis and all of this, as I said, it's been fascinating to me, really, really interesting. And both Kevin's experience and my brother's experience, they do have some commonalities there. The kind of inability to move, the kind of like total fear that you feel, and then the like shadowy figures that you see as well. So kind of as I was looking into all of this, I actually then came across this whole study that has been done on sleep paralysis. And it was actually The Guardian that was talking about it. And they basically said that there are common experiences across sleep paralysis and kind of common hallucinations, I suppose, for lack of a better term. So there's the first one is the Old Hag. And this figure is often described as an old woman who sits on your chest while you're experiencing sleep paralysis, making it difficult to breathe. And this basically correlates with the common sensation of pressure on your chest as basically the most common feature of sleep paralysis. And the thing that I kind of love about this is that I recently remembered when I was reading about this that my older brother also talked about how one night he was lying in bed and he woke up to an old woman sitting on his chest and he couldn't move. So he talked about this like feeling of this woman lying on him. He couldn't do anything about it and was basically like petrified to move. So yeah, this is called the Old Hag, or the Night Hag is the other term that they use. But that basically, in certain places, I think in like Canada, for example, they actually say that it's the attack of the Old Hag. So like it's actually like they talk about it like this is an actual, like this is a thing, and this is something like it's a very, very common thing. In Scandinavian folklore, actually, it's actually linked to succubi.
I was about to say, this is giving me succubus vibes.
Yeah. So in Scandinavian culture, they actually link the sleep paralysis phenomenon of the Old Hag with succubi. And then, there's the Old Hag then, which I said, which is in Newfoundland and also the same in the US. In Fiji, they actually call it the Canotevero, which is basically that you're being eaten by a demon. So it's like the demon is like placing itself on your chest and won't let you move. So I just find it really interesting. And then the final example I give, there's literally examples from all over the world, but the final example that I'll give for this specific one is in Turkey. And this is the one that I find really interesting. Sleep paralysis, this specific phenomenon is called karabasan. And the cool thing about this one is that it's actually related to demons. And they say that it's actually a jinn that's lying on your chest.
Oh.
So they say that the jinn is basically preventing you from breathing, and that it's basically trying to like suck the life out of you effectively.
Yeah, it's really interesting that the human mind goes to, like, you feel pressure on your chest and then you kind of like personify it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so it's that exact thing. Like it's just I find it fascinating that literally across the planet, there's like literally like even the Wikipedia page for it, you know, the way it breaks it down by region.
Yeah.
Every single region of the planet has its own
variation
description of the phenomenon and their own variation. Like Vietnam, for example, I won't pronounce it because I will get in trouble. I will say something incorrect with Vietnamese. But basically it translates to being held down by a ghost or held down by a shadow. So like it does really kind of cover everywhere. Like Africa's the exact same. Like they've got stories there as well of like shadow figures holding you down. It's evil spirits, demons, all that sort of stuff. And then Europe is the exact same. So like it really does kind of cover the whole kind of planet effectively. And I actually discovered that in Celtic region, so like Scotland, Ireland and Wales, that kind of area, that it's called Trumlai or heavy lying. And this term actually became what is now known as nightmare.
Oh.
So when it's translated into English. So the term nightmare actually came from this.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I just found this fascinating that basically like this experience covers the globe and that it all has kind of come out in its own cultures as effectively the same thing. It's some variation, but it's still a presence is sitting on you. That's how we've like personified it, basically.
Yeah.
I just found it really, really interesting that this is kind of something that we've just created in this kind of like collective consciousness of humanity.
Oh yeah, no, I love that stuff because it's a bit like the vampire and I like a touch on like like the succubus. It's just every culture kind of has its own take on it, which is really fascinating and says some interesting things, I think.
Oh, 100%. Like, absolutely. It's just so interesting. And like, it's been cool to read as well because like, as we've become like more modernized society and things like that, the whole sleep paralysis kind of stories have kind of switched gear slightly. And it's now moved from people interpreting it as like demons and spirits and things like that into alien abduction.
Oh.
And people are now talking about it as this has been alien abduction this entire time. And it's basically you've been paralyzed and that's what you're seeing. Or people are now saying, rather than experiencing sleep paralysis, that they're being abducted. So I just found it really interesting just to see that there has been a kind of like cultural shift in all of this.
Yeah, and it's even in, I'm going to bring up something that is potentially quite niche, but like they do this storyline in, you know, the Darkest Night podcast. Do you remember how like we talked about like the first season was amazing and the second season we didn't like at all? There was like an episode in the second season where a teenage girl is claiming that like aliens are like removing her bones, but it's very much described as almost like a sleep paralysis event. So yeah, it's even in like media, it's kind of shit. Because I mean, if you think about something like, I'm just thinking of like a horror audio like The Black Tapes, that obviously talks quite extensively about sleep paralysis, and that's what Dr. Strand uses as his kind of weapon against the paranormal. He's like, oh, it was a hypnopompic hallucination. Yeah.
And so I'm glad you actually brought up The Black Tapes because that was actually something that inspired me and made me think of actually the next phenomena that I'm about to talk about.
Oh, cool.
And it's actually very, very related to the Old Hag. It's almost the same, but there's like one or two slight differences. So I just wanted to mention it as its own thing.
Yeah.
So this one is specifically from German folklore.
Lovely.
Which, you know, you're already onto a good,
Oh, yeah.
good runner with German folklore.
So there's some dark shit flowing out of the Black Forest.
Yeah, absolutely. And this one is called the Alp. And this is a cat-like creature that's supposed to sit on your chest. And rather than it preventing you from being able to breathe, this one causes you nightmares. And basically, it does give you the sense of suffocation. But the difference with the Alp is that it also like gives you like horrific nightmares. And it just reminded me when you were talking about the black tapes of like the cat that she sees like in her sleep paralysis.
Because she sees the cat, and then the thing holding the cat's head is like the Old Hag.
Yeah, so it's like a mix of the two.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Alp is that the difference between this and the Old Hag is that you can actually see the Alp in the room making its way across to you with this kind of like Cheshire cat grin on it.
Oh shit! So you get to watch it prowl to you.
Yes, and you can't move the entire time that you see it. So that's the thing about the Alp that's different, is that you wake up when it's in the room. So you'll see it, say, like, come out from underneath your bed, walk around the room smiling at you the entire time, and then watch it climb up onto your body and then place itself on your chest.
Oh, not fun. But also slightly reminiscent to actually owning a cat.
Yeah. So one very brief story that I saw describing it was an individual who basically described seeing this small, as they said, a white-faced troll, but they've interpreted it as the Alp, basically grinning at them from the corner of their vision, hearing it like breathing heavily in their ear. And then they watched it move across the room, get up onto the bed, and then sit on their chest. Mm-hmm. And then basically like maintained eye contact with them the entire time. They couldn't blink is what they said. And that they basically had this creature sitting on its chest, smiling at him the entire time.
Oh no, I don't like that.
Yeah, so I knew you'd love that one.
Yeah, Jesus.
Yeah, so it's just a fascinating kind of idea to me, is that there's these kind of like shared experiences across the whole spectrum of sleep paralysis. Before I get on to the last shared example that I'm going to talk about today, just want to note that there's two types of sleep paralysis apparently, and I didn't actually know this. One is called isolated sleep paralysis, and it occurs without any other signs of narcolepsy or other sleep disorders. So it can basically just like hit you out of nowhere, which is fucking terrifying as far as I'm concerned. It can literally just hit you at any point. But then there's also recurrent sleep paralysis, which involves multiple episodes over time and is often associated with narcolepsy. So basically you can get a one and done sleep paralysis, or you can suffer with it for the rest of your life.
Oh, fun. 50-50, isn't it?
Yeah. So, yeah, you're basically not in for a good time regardless of however you experience it.
It's like, oh good, both sides are shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll take, neither.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that an option?
Like, are column A and column B my only columns?
Yeah, it's just shocking. Like, the thought of it. I think it's more, what gets me with sleep paralysis is that you're in the safety of literally your bed. That's where you're supposed to be the safest.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just even in your home, like, you're in your bed. So to feel like that you have lost all safety and experience this, no.
Well, and it's
Not
like an
at all.
extreme version of, like, I understand it's kind of a common thing in dreams that people can't run properly. Yeah, like a lot of times you feel very like stuck even when you want to be running in your dream. It's like an extreme version of that.
It actually is. Yeah, I didn't actually think about that. Okay, I used to get those running dreams a lot actually as a child. I don't know
Oh,
why.
I did too. And I also got like falling dreams a lot, where you would actually like feel the sensation of falling.
Yeah. I used to have this. I suppose it's not at all related, but I used to have this recurring nightmare as a child actually of like a man chasing me.
Yeah.
But it was like, I'm not joking, like this recurring nightmare took place over a course of years. Like, it got to a point that I was recognizing the nightmare as soon as it would start, because it would always start with me on, for some reason, a dock. Like, but I don't think I'd ever even been on a dock at this point as a child, but like on a dock.
Yeah.
And there was a man basically like standing underneath like this like lamplight, effectively like lit on a dock, and would start chasing me.
Jesus.
But it got to a point that like I would recognize the nightmare as it was happening. Like, as soon as it would start, I'd immediately feel that like my heart race. So yeah, it was a bit weird. And maybe there's something in there, some psychological thing. You know, someone's probably read into it and it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Well, it was Freud, and it's a penis.
Damn it. I always knew.
Yeah, you know, like everything and like every item you could think of in that dream, every object is phallic.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, it all makes sense now that I think about it. So
it's like, that's why you couldn't run. You had penis legs. Again, I've been saying some sentences that I just never thought I would.
I thought you were going to go down the route if that's why you couldn't run, because you were trying to run from your gay thoughts.
Oh, no, I went a whole different direction with that. Took a hard left to keep you on your toes.
Yeah, well, I'll accept either, to be fair, so. You've actually just broken my brain a bit.
Oh, God.
Oh, amazing. Grant, I have one more experience that I want to share, and then I'm going to talk about this new addition to the realm of sleep paralysis.
Cool.
So I ventured onto Reddit.
Oh, good.
And naturally, there were a lot of comments and a lot of stories and a lot of people talking about it. And one in particular was on the paranormal subreddit. And
a sketchy place.
Yeah. A sketchy place with 1.3 million subscribers.
Well, that's why it's sketchy. You've got like a real spectrum of like of people in that group.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true, actually. Yeah, I didn't actually consider that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
you're still thinking about your penis legs.
I am, but it's just got penis on the brain now. So this user talks about how they were in college and they fell asleep in their like dorm room.
Mm-hmm.
You, Suz, I'm sure would have more of an experience with this. The whole kind of like dorm room in college thing. You've got like one other person staying with you, potentially.
Yeah.
So dude talks about falling asleep and says that he can't remember the initial dream, but that the curious thing about this is that his vision got like cut off. He like opened his eyes, basically. He says that like the dream basically just got cut off halfway through, and he opened his eyes and could see his computer monitor was turned on, but he couldn't move.
Okay.
And the only thing that he could see was that the computer monitor was turned on and that there was a blinking cursor on it.
Oh, this is great.
And he said that he was lying there and he said text began to appear on the screen.
Yes.
And he says that the text he could see clearly said, "I'm in control now.
Ooh.
There's nothing you can do."
And that's how ChatGPT was created.
Yeah. So how would you feel about this happening?
Oh my god, this is like the perfect. I love this like whole like monster in the machine. Like there's one of my favorite Magnus Archive episodes is the one called Binary that's discussing like kind of a haunted, computer setup thing, and I find it so creepy and so interesting, and when like technology glitches and all that, like I think this is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when I say incredible, I mean like it I find the trope very terrifying.
Oh yeah, 100%. So he said this freaked him out, and he said that he did his like usual trick that he does in bad dreams of trying to wake himself up, which was shaking his head really hard, which I was not aware that this is a thing people could do in their dreams, but okay.
Okay.
And he says that he now feels like he woke up again. So his eyes, like, let's remember, he says his eyes were open at this point, but then he says he woke up again.
Yep.
And this time he was lying in his bed on his side. So it's like he switched sides basically and woke up now. Mm-hmm. So he says that he starts to calm down, which then he says that he could hear a video playing behind him. So he assumes that maybe he left YouTube open. You know the way some people fall asleep to YouTube and it's on autoplay?
Yeah.
But he says that when he tried to turn it off, he couldn't move. So he begins to freak out again, but tried to stay calm, when all of a sudden the audio from the video playing behind him, as he says, got darker and darker. He says it sounded like there was a horror video game getting played in the background.
Okay.
And that basically, like, something was happening that was, like, he didn't want to see, effectively.
Right.
He says then that the person playing the video game, he heard them, like, screaming, effectively, that they were, like, screaming at the video, and he was kind of not really sure what it was. He said the screaming continued, and then the person started screaming for help. And it was at that point then that he realized, this isn't a video. This is actually my roommate screaming for help, and it's not a video playing.
Oh.
So he says the screaming continued for a bit before eventually being cut off with what he described as a wet squishing sound that he took to mean his roommate had just been killed.
Oh my God.
So he says that as soon as he heard that, the computer monitor was in front of him again, and it came up on the screen, "See, I told you that I'm in control. It's all over now."
Yikes.
And with that, he says that he was basically like back lying in his bed again, on the flat of his back, still paralyzed, but now like lying, looking upwards. He says he started trying to thrash and scream, but nothing could happen. After this, then he said that he started to pray, and then suddenly managed to wake up screaming. He said literally like woke up screaming, and his roommate basically like bolted out of bed, asked him to calm down, and asked him if he was okay. And he realized that his roommate was fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was another experience that I saw with sleep paralysis. But I wanted to include it because it's so different.
Yeah. No, that one's... Oh, I like that one.
Yeah, it's a kind of more, like, modern experience, I suppose. Like, all the other ones is this, like, old creepy German creature, like, coming into your room and sleeping on your chest, or, like, the Old Hag and all that.
It's now...
This is a bit more, like...
The Hag is in my MacBook.
Ghost in the Machine sort of shit. Yeah.
Like, the call is coming from inside the chat.
So, that was the kind of the modern experience.
Yep.
Now I want to talk about, as my final point for today, the newest addition to the sleep paralysis world, basically.
I'm so excited.
And this, for me, I actually found fascinating, because while this is a new addition, when I looked into this a bit more, there's actually stories of this going back quite a bit, like, further into the past that I was just not aware of. So I find it mad interesting, and I will get into it more, but I found it interesting that while it's new, it's been going on for a while. So, have you heard of the Hat Man?
No, but it's giving me, like, just from the name, it's making me think of the very tall, like, stretched man with the bowler hat in Haunting of Hill House.
Yeah, so you'd be fairly spot on with that, actually. That's pretty much the description.
Oh, okay.
So, this is a man who is said to appear during sleep paralysis, and it's basically a shadowy figure often described as wearing a wide-brimmed hat, and people report seeing him standing at the foot of their bed or in the corner of the room, watching them silently. And his whole thing is that his presence is accompanied by an intense feeling of dread. So very similar to Hill House with that.
Yeah.
Like that kind of like standing there. Now I know Hill House is like more like, there's nothing shadowy about that figure.
No, that is
Yeah, but it's very, very interesting. Now, the thing about the Hat Man is that this has basically exploded on TikTok.
Okay.
And, like, people on TikTok are, like, fascinated with the paranormal, from what I've discovered. And
yeah, there's some... TikTok is kind of the Wild West.
yeah, absolutely. So, I suppose if there was ever a place for it to blow up, this would be
Yeah.
it. So, the cool thing about the Hat Man, though, is that descriptions of the Hat Man are remarkably consistent from one account to the next. Like, and I'm talking, it's very, very consistent. Tall silhouette of a man in a brimmed hat, and a presence that basically makes you feel intense dread. And it's so consistent that now, basically, he's being added into the category of experiences.
Damn.
Of sleep paralysis.
Okay.
Which I just find fascinating that they're still adding to it.
Yeah, like there's like that this kind of collective unconscious is growing and perhaps enabled further by social media.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the Hat Man, though, is this like shadow person, so that people have talked about, and it actually goes back significantly further than the kind of like modern, I suppose, tellings of it. And the interesting thing that I found about this is that there's two examples I found from the world. So in Albania, there's a folk belief there of the Mokti. And this is said to be a male spirit who's wearing a golden fez. So, like, if anyone knows the Fez hat.
Like a jaunty, like, ooh, I like this.
Yeah, but he basically appears in front of women.
Of course he does with a golden fez.
Yeah, and it's women who are usually tired or suffering.
Okay.
And that there's this whole belief that if you can take his golden hat, he'll grant you a wish.
I love this.
But that if you take his wish, he'll visit you frequently. Although he's harmless, he will visit you frequently. And basically, the only way that you can stop him from coming to see you is that you have to get a talisman that will provide protection from the Mokti. And one of the ways of doing this is to put your husband's hat near your pillow while sleeping.
This is given some real... You let him slide into your DMs, and then you just have to, like, keep blocking him until he stops.
Absolutely.
Like, he's given off some nice guy energy.
Oh, he really is. Really, like, giving off, like, mad...
Like, I'm not
nice
like the
energy.
others. Like, I'm just gonna swing by. I'm not gonna do anything weird, but I am gonna be around.
Yep, pretty much. I just want to watch you sleep. I'm not in a weird way, though.
Also, like, with a golden fez, like, is he like a super spangled Doctor Who fan or something? Like...
100%, yeah. We'll never know.
we'll never know. I love that.
Yeah.
That's the tagline for this podcast. We'll never know.
So that was the Albanian lad. And then in Turkey, remember previously I talked about the Karabasan,
Yep.
that like djinn?
Yep.
So the point I left out about the djinn appearing in your room is that another part of that story is that this specific djinn is actually seen wearing a wide-brimmed hat. And that basically he is the one that like stands in your room and basically like tries to like steal your breath from you, effectively stop you from breathing.
Okay, I have a question. So what type of, like, what do we mean by wide-brimmed hat? Excuse me. Are we talking like 10-gallon hat Texas style? Are we talking like old-timey like American Gothic farmer? Like, what are we talking?
So the interesting thing about the hat man is that it doesn't seem to matter what the hat is, like what type of hat. So there's multiple varieties, and I think this is more of a cultural thing.
Okay.
So in Albania, it's a fez. In Turkey, I just saw it as a wide-brimmed hat. But then I've seen others in the States, for example, where they talk about the hat man having this kind of like, you know, that like Clint Eastwood hat from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah. Well, I'm also so is it like a hipster in California is going to see him wearing like a Y2K bucket hat?
It potentially.
Yeah.
I haven't seen anyone say that yet.
Like proper Wheatus music video for a teenage dirtbag.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, look, it's possible.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely possible. The one that scares me the most of the hat descriptions that I have seen is the hat man who wears a fedora.
Oh, because then you just start to hear the echo of Milady.
Yeah.
and you know you're unsafe.
You hear his raspy asthma breathing.
And you hear the slow like slide of a katana.
She doth protest too much.
Oh my god. Oh no. You're just like, I studied the blade.
Oh god.
While you were busy having hypnopompic hallucinations, I was studying the blade.
Jesus Christ. That is terrifying.
I think that's a new sentence.
Yeah, it is. The hat man neckbeard.
Oh god.
A paranormal neckbeard.
A paranormal neckbeard. I love that. That's the
a dream stalker.
That's the tag for this episode of paranormal neckbeard.
Paranormal neckbeard. So yeah, the most common description, and to be fair, it's coming from TikTok, which is a heavily American influenced platform. It's the hat man is this figure that's kind of dressed in like 1940s noir sort of, you know, that style of fedora.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of.
You mean it's an actual fedora and not a trilby?
Exactly. Yeah, that sort of style.
Yeah.
So the description from the States, and the most common one as a result, is that the hat man is in this fedora standing at the end of your bed with this kind of like mist-like kind of property to him, and that he can be anything from 6 feet to 10 feet tall.
10 feet? Jesus.
And some have said that his eyes are often like darker than dark. So you just see like the absence of light effectively. There's
also a bit of classism here, because if someone can see a 10-foot tall figure, they are living in some nice high vaulted ceiling, you know, domicile. I'm just saying, or
they live outside.
Well, then how are they in the corner of anything?
So
where is the corner of outside?
It's either side of the spectrum, Suz.
I didn't expect that to go that way, but okay.
It's not just rich folk.
We are throwing each other some curveballs.
Oh, we have today.
So, Hat Man, like 1940s hard-boiled noir. Like, it's kind of giving me, like, what is it? Is it Frank Miller, Sin City kind of?
Exactly that.
Yeah.
That's the exact look.
Okay.
People have even said the kind of like the trench coat style jacket and everything.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the key thing about the Hat Man, though, as my final point, is that in nearly every single account, they all say he's eerily quiet and that he doesn't touch you, he doesn't try to attack you, doesn't sit on your chest like other sleep paralysis like demons are known to do. He literally just stands in a corner of the room watching you. Some people have said that he has hovered over their chest, examining them, but that he's never touched them, never stopped them from breathing, never done anything like that.
Okay.
So I find this fascinating that this new addition to the lore of sleep paralysis demons doesn't interfere with you in any way. It just observes you. And this is what has led to ufologists saying that this actually could be like alien abduction or alien presence, basically. And that they're basically wearing hats and this genuinely came from a Psychology Today like blog post, which I believe is a reasonably like prestigious journal.
I have no idea, so maybe.
Where a psychologist there actually said that if it was alien presence, that they would propose that the reason why they're wearing hats is to potentially cover up imperfect shaped heads to appear more humanoid than they actually are.
Panhandle Bigfoot.
Exactly. So that's the kind of alien theory, and then the other theory to it. There's two theories, which one I'm going to say for the end, which is my favorite one.
Oh, good.
So some people have said that basically just the Hat Man and other visual hallucinations connected to sleep paralysis are they're nightmares basically slipping into the waking world for a few seconds. That's all it is, and there's nothing else to it. That, you know, it's a common occurrence, but the whole Hat Man thing could be a common occurrence because more people are seeing it online. So those who are susceptible to sleep paralysis are almost like manifesting it effectively, like subconsciously manifesting it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like it's essentially a sleep paralysis meme.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's basically it. My final point for this, and it's my favorite one because I just find it so funny because it's peak America. Someone pointed out that a lot of common occurrences that people have where they talk about the Hat Man is that he has appeared to people after they've taken Benadryl and tried to go to sleep.
Oh, I love this so much.
So people are saying that the Hat Man has basically been manifested by Benadryl.
Oh my god. Okay, so for the listeners who may be somewhere that, like, Benadryl isn't a thing, like, Benadryl is a very, like, popular antihistamine, and, like, it's actually used as well as, like, a non-addictive sleep aid because it will knock your ass. Like, you can't have allergies when you're asleep for 16 hours. Like, lots of people take Benadryl before they get on a flight or go on a long car ride. Benadryl, like, yeah, it will stop you sneezing because you will be snoring.
I knew you'd relate to this so much.
I have taken, as someone who has consistent, like, you know how car sick I get. Like, I have taken more Benadryl in my life than is probably medically recommended.
Yep. I knew when I saw the Benadryl one, I was like, that's going to be my final contribution for this episode.
I love that so much because I come back from when I visit my family in the States and I come back, I go to like the equivalent of a Costco and buy like an 800 pack of Benadryl and I take it back with me. So currently in my like medicine drawer in my home in Ireland is like an 800 pack of Benadryl.
Yeah, that's your American freedoms right there, buying disgustingly strong antihistamines over the counter.
Yep, and that's like I can't tell you that America's like very good right now for pretty much anything, but I do appreciate being able to buy like a heinous amount of medication over the counter. Like human rights,
not at all
not
what's
great,
wrong with
but
America.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, all right, you can't buy opioids over the counter.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Having lived in a country in Vietnam where you actually can.
Oh yeah, you told me about that. Like, doesn't the lady just go to the back and get you whatever you want?
Yeah, in a kind of Walter White-esque kind of moment, you basically go to her with the chemical compounds that you need. Like, you You give her the base ingredients, and she goes off and basically comes back with something. It's always in a clear plastic bag.
Oh my God.
No packaging, no nothing. And you just basically have to take her word that what she's given you is what you asked for.
Well, because she's been making biker meth for years. Like, if we're
100%.
true Walter White style.
Yeah, she's got the recipe perfected at this point. But yeah, like you can, and I did unfortunately see people buying like quite strong opiates or literally over the counter and abuse the fuck out of them.
For the paralysis thing, like I've never experienced sleep paralysis. I've heard about it like since I was younger, and like we said, it features quite prominently in the stories of things like the Black Tapes and Tanis, and I think like I said, I think there's a Magnus Archives episode or two. You know, I'm sure that somewhere in there. And it kind of, okay, so I have two things. So like one, I've never experienced it, but I have taken a fair amount of Benadryl in my life, and it's never made me, like, it's always just knocked me out. It's never really made me see things. But I have also, like, for a short-term sleeping problem I was having, like, they gave me a prescription of Ambien, and...
Oh, shit.
Yeah. Which if because they say, like, well, the game is you take Ambien and then you, like, try and stay awake and then you, like, see shit and all that. I was not trying to play that game. And so there is but what did happen to me is I took it as prescribed. And then, so I think I took it around like 6 p.m. one evening because I just was really tired and I needed a lot of sleep. And so I took it, and then I woke up the next morning. I have no memory of like brushing my teeth, getting in bed, any of it, getting dressed for bed, none of it. I wake up, and like later that day, I'm talking with my husband, and he's like, "Oh, remember that thing you were saying last night?" And I was like, "What?" And it turns out we'd had like a full-on discussion. And he was like, "You were just awake, Suz. Like, we were just having a chat." And I was like, "What?" Like, and it is the only time in my life where it is a literal blank space in my memory.
You made room for Shadow Suz, and she took over.
Yeah,
you handed over the reins.
That's why when we watched that Rick and Morty episode about the Night family, I was like, "Oh my God, I met Night Suz." Like, you met Night Suz, honey. The other thing I was going to say about it is I don't think it's medication related, but I think that it's interesting that, yeah, like this kind of collective unconscious figure that kind of gets, and I mean, in some ways it reminds me of like the birth of a new fear, like in the Magnus Archives. But,
yeah.
But I also think that it's weird to think about the influence of something like social media culture on like a medical phenomenon that is sleep paralysis and like what you see. Because is it DMT? Is that the drug that like people take?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then like multiple people have said they've had the same kind of hallucination that there were like small people, elves who were like constructing the timeline and reality and shit.
Yeah, it's like the god drug is what they call it. You can basically like peek behind the curtain of the universe and see what's going on. The elves, I think they call themselves like tinkerers or something like that.
Yeah, so like it kind of gives me that, kind of effect.
Yeah.
But it's it sucks that we're not manifesting something like, because our brains are wired to be afraid. Like, I wish it was something like a yassified, drag queen in the corner who was just like death dropping for you,
Well, now you've got a goal. you manifest the fuck out of that, and we're still in Pride Month, so you can make it work.
Oh yeah, well then I'm also
just
thinking,
go take a heap of Benadryl and go lie in bed and basically just manifest a drag queen.
Yeah, I mean, I could do that, but I could also do, like, it also makes me think of, like, oh, what would be a nice version of the Hat Man? It'd be, like, Pharrell.
Yeah.
Like, big hat.
Pharrell would be lovely,
Big
actually.
hat, he seems like a nice guy. Like, as long as he doesn't start playing happy, I'll be fine.
Yeah, he's mad into, like, Star Trek and stuff like that. Like, I feel like I could definitely, like, vibe with him.
Oh, wee lamb.
Yeah. Or, actually, I could just manifest like, a Henry Cavill wearing a hat as well. I'd be perfectly fine with that.
Well, okay, Henry Cavill, like, as the Witcher, though, because Henry Cavill not as the Witcher is a bit boring. That's right. Hot take from Suz.
I don't know if we can continue this
this
podcast.
This friendship is over. Oh, God.
Wow. It only took 26 episodes for the real Suz to come out now.
Well, sorry. What if I were to reveal that this is the night Suz, that I had taken Ambien, and this is the other Suz?
No, it's fine. You played your cards now. I see how it is. But yeah, that's the Hat Man and Sleep Paralysis. This was a weird one for me to look into. I loved it. Like, I do find it fascinating, and I really enjoyed it. I've been meaning to do it for a while, but yeah, it's a slightly more serious topic because it is a legit fear, and it's a thing that people do suffer with. So
and it's scary because it's like your brain short circuiting. Like,
yeah, absolutely,
it's terrifying.
Yeah, it's to do with like REM cycles and stuff like that. It's like if it gets interrupted in any way, it can cause it to happen basically.
And
where it's like a waking nightmare effectively.
And it's really just a reminder that we're kind of like electrified meat sacks pushing air at each other is the quote I think I remember. Like,
yeah, we're mad fragile.
Yeah.
We really are.
Like, our brain, like, we don't even know, like, we don't know what our brain is doing, and it's doing some shit.
Yeah, it's like that thing that you ever look into of the things that your brain determines isn't important enough for you to see.
Yep. Oh, I don't like it. I don't like having that knowledge.
Yeah, it's that's a fun one for people to read. People, if you haven't read it yet, you should wait until you're lying in bed tonight and then look up what does your brain choose for you to not see, and have fun reading that, and then try to sleep.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my contribution.
Well, that was great. No, I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I had fun making this one. This was a weird one. It was a weird and wonderful world of sleep paralysis, and it's a terrifying thing.
Absolutely. So we wish you sweet dreams with non-paralysis features to them. So, like...
Yeah. I hope you all sleep tonight soundly with no sleep paralysis.
I hope you all, at all times, you maintain the ability to move your limbs.
Yeah, 100%. That's what we all want here.
No kink shaming.
And yeah, if you can't move your limbs for another reason, then that's totally fine. Like, if it's a kink thing, absolutely have at it.
Like, if you and the Hat Man have like a consensual thing going on, then fair. But
yeah. Oh, who are we to judge?
No, yeah.
Like, no problem at all. Yeah, that's totally fine. You've got your own stuff going on then, and that's grand.
You're living a more interesting life than we are.
100%. Yeah. And enjoy if that is what you're doing. But yeah, I hope whenever it is that you're listening to this that you've enjoyed this episode. If you want to get in touch with us online, you can reach us on Instagram at the SpookyAFpod. You can send us an email at thespookyafpodcast@gmail.com. Or you can now subscribe to our YouTube channel, which we now have. You can search the Spooky AF Podcast, and you can get all of our episodes that we've released previously. They're all up there. They get updated every Friday. You can watch our logo on YouTube as it plays our episodes. If we go off-site and maybe do like an on-site episode somewhere or investigation sort of thing, if we take videos, we'll definitely put them up there. So yeah, it's a cool little place that we're hopefully going to add more content to. Maybe not just the episodes. It could be like little short bits that we have and stuff, or stuff that we're interested in. We'll put them up on YouTube as well.
Absolutely.
But with that, I hope you're all having a lovely day, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Bye.